Thank you, Dr. Elil Anand, for this opportunity, and thank you for the wonderful work you've been doing through Curry Watches. It's promoting healthy communities. For me, the main reason I'm doing this is I have tried to lose weight and failed miserably several times in the past. And then I have been successful in the last 6 months. But when I went to India, somebody said that, again, like Dr. Elilan said, it's relatively easy to lose weight. It's much more harder to sustain. And that's also a point that one of my friends, a gastroenterologist, said, look, it's actually much more harmful to lose weight and then to regain. And people, and like Dr. Anand said, there are studies that says that people who lose weight eventually go on to regain weight and actually gain more than what they were before they started losing weight. So that started me kind of thinking, what can we do to sort of support each other. But even before that, I've been always thinking about the reasons I failed, and that's because there was an external product and I was trying to adapt my life into that product, when in fact whatever we are trying to do, it should adapt to or sort of adjust to our life situations. And as a doctor, as a psychiatrist, I've recognized this concept for a while now, that whilst we talk about physiological factors, medical factors, biological factors, every person is still very unique. Their life is very different to each other. Even the same person will have different circumstances at different points of their life. So we might be talking about two people with diabetes, and those two people, they might have the same illness, but their life might be completely different. And so you cannot have interventions that are applicable for one person apply to this other person. And this is very, very true whenever you're talking about long-term situations. If medicines and biological medicine will work very well if we are talking about an acute short-term condition. So if you have an infection, antibiotics would work for most people. But whenever we talk about longer, lifelong situations, then psychology comes into play a lot more. Your individual situation is very important. For example, one of my major limiting factors is I cannot do a lot of cardio exercises. I've got a bit of a problem with my right leg. So that straight away means that I have to sort of change certain things, because most healthy living things talk about a lot of exercise. Even within Curry Watches, people post a lot of pictures of lots of everybody doing a lot of runs and things like that. I can only look at it. I can't do that. So those are all the sort of reasons why me and Dr. Elilan have been talking about this for a while now, and we wanted to start this. The only other thing I will say before I go on to the presentation is very much what Dr. Anand said is it has definitely got to be interactive, because we need to talk about our unique circumstances and how we can overcome those unique circumstances towards a more healthy lifestyle. So I'll try and share the screen. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So what I'll do is oops, sorry. What I'll do is I'll go through some of the slides very quickly, and then we'll go for discussion. I wanted to talk about some very basic things. Please bear with me. It's not that none of us know these things. But when we talk about a topic, it's nice to talk about the pros and cons and remind ourselves about what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages and why we need to be doing whatever we're wanting to do. And the first thing is how to lose health. And Dr. Anand talked about this. The basic premise is that we take a lot more calories than what we spend, and that's as simple as that. It's that calorie excess that kind of contributes to a lot of the problems. So as long as we can have that calorie balance in whichever way, either you take less calories or you burn more calories. So that's kind of trying to keep it very simple. And why has that come about? That is also very worthwhile reflecting, is that there's been a gradual and complete cultural changes of various bad habits. And one of the things that everybody is very aware is there is a lot more food abundance. Even if I go back to my own childhood days, I have to sort of say I was a relatively affluent family, but even then, the access to snacks and how you took snacks is very, very different to how we do it now. Um, and that's kind of contributed to the sort of really excess calorical intake. And obviously our lives become sedentary as we kind of hit middle age and things like that, and that makes the added problem. Why do we need a healthy lifestyle? And again, none of these are rocket science to any of us, but as I said, I wanted to put all the benefits, and these benefits will vary from person to person. I have put some benefits that I think it has been certainly in the last 6 months. For me, the most important thing is actually the last point, which is that you have a different approach to lots of other aspects of life. Suddenly, things that I don't see certain things as inherently unachievable. I kind of think, okay, if I approach it in the right way, anything and everything is possible. So that for me is the actually the most significant benefit. Certainly in the last 6 months, I've lost about 15 kilos. But for me, that was the most unexpected benefit that I thought I personally had. What are then obviously the cons of being unhealthy? Again, it's just a reverse of all the points that I kind of sort of said before. And what strikes me is how much health, diet, or appearance dominates a lot of conversations. I suppose it might be because of my friend circle. I obviously like my friends are of the middle age like I am, so I don't know, it's that sort of midlife crisis. Everybody talks a lot about image and appearance, and health dominates. What you eat dominates, how you look dominates. And that then it kind of causes it also made me think about possible isolation, loneliness, definitely decreased productivity. And from a psychological point of view, and the point that Dr. Anand mentioned, what a lot of us do not understand or are not aware is the significant relationship between body and mind. So if your body is good, your mind is good, and your mind is good, body is good. But if one is wrong, the other will have an inevitable impact. So how closely they two are related to each other, and how correcting one will correct the other. So for example, for me, losing a bit of weight certainly made me feel better. So it could work in both ways, really. And so therefore, if you're unhealthy, it will have a psychological impact as well. Now, obviously, from a physical health point of view, these are things that I'm sure a lot of you are much more aware of. So I'm not going to labor this point. And some myths about health that I myself have had, and I know certainly a lot of other people have talked about these, is just sort of blame it on genetics, or to sort of say it's too late to make a change now. And that I have failed several times before, so what's the point? And again, it's the last point about how I failed several times before. It goes to the point that Dr. Leland said about, rather than seeing this as some sort of regimen or an exercise regimen or a diet regimen, it's trying to take that approach that you want to make a wholesome change to your life as such. So this is not a 6-month program, a 6-week program, or anything like that. We are trying to change ourselves fundamentally, and change is hard, particularly at a certain point, but it is definitely doable if you kind of go through it in a slow and sustained manner. And that is where the social support of a group will also be handy. And it will happen more effectively if we understand ourselves, understand our strengths, understand our limitations, and that is different for different people. So we need to have an approach that suits us, rather than having an approach that is marketed in a book or a program and things like that. So I've just talked about it before. So each of us are unique. We have specific cultural, diet, and health styles. So again, I'm from Tamil Nadu, so rice is such an important dish. for a lot of people from South India, and that has its rice itself is considered a bad carb in that sense. So I'm just sort of giving you one example, and each of us have got a unique set of actions that are triggered by specific thoughts. So you have a certain way of thinking, and it is the thoughts that drives our actions. So what we are trying to do in this group hopefully is go behind our actions and try to understand our thoughts. And then if you understand our thoughts, then we can think about how we can try and change some of our thoughts so that it leads to better action, more healthier actions. So thoughts become words, and words become actions, actions become behavior, and behavior then becomes habit, character, and then eventually into personality. So you can just as how we built up our character and personality, we can kind of go back into a different world, by kind of reversing that sort of sequence. But for that, we need to really go study some of the situations why certain things happen, and look at the thought pattern. So whenever we kind of have a let's say, for example, have an impulse and eat something, it is not something that you feel guilty about and then go on a long treadmill, or sort of then go for a period of starvation. It's an opportunity to understand why that happened, and then try to think about what can we learn from that about ourselves, about our thought patterns, and what can we do to get ourselves into a more healthy lifestyle. So understand ourselves, basically understanding our strengths and limitations, and optimizing our strengths while minimizing limitations. So this way we are on a continuous journey. So this is again not okay, start here, stop here kind of a thing. It's a continuous evolving journey. So over a period of time, we continue to get better, and we have only ourselves to compare. We are not comparing to any other person. We are not comparing ourselves to sports stars or cine stars. We're just comparing ourselves, and we're just wanting to be that 1% better than the previous day, and we just continue to build. And whilst along the journey, we completely understand that there will be lots and lots of bumps, but having the courage to kind of persevere through those bumps and through those pitfalls, rather than losing hope and kind of going back and saying, oh, I've tried this several times and I can't do that. By understanding ourselves and our relationship with food, exercise, and life, and by helping, loving, and being kind with each other, we aim to embark on a journey towards achieving a psychological, person-centered, and purposeful, healthy lifestyle. So we kind of thought of it like this. Again, this is where we would probably encourage discussions. This was just an initial thought as to how we go about it. Having talked a lot about not being a particular program, we still said it's a 12-week only to kind of have those discussions. Very much can have regular discussions even after that, but we just wanted to have a regular meeting just so that we can try and have those sort of discussions about looking at specific situations, looking at individual person. And obviously it might be difficult for all of us to share a lot about ourselves in a larger group. So if need be, we can break ourselves into much smaller groups and have those sort of discussions and gentle kind of questioning. We have something called as coaching style in NHS ways of working, where the other person doesn't give you advice. He just the coach keeps asking you different questions, so the answer comes from the person within. So we can try some of those things really. So those are the sort of opportunity thoughts that we had, but it's essentially looking at ourselves as a person and how we can make wholesome changes to our lifestyle. So that's the kind of thought that we've had. Sorry, I'll just kind of go back to these things. So just an introduction and understanding self. We can then specifically look at food, look at exercise, look at some of our psychological strategies, and then reflections and learning and coaching. We can talk a little bit about that, and then we can go into subsequent weeks. We can have these trying to have smaller groups of sharing experiences and trying to help each other out. So that's the thought we had, but again, as I sort of said, this is very much an interactive session. We want to kind of get your thoughts on how we go forward, but this is essentially the remit.